Hey, what's up, everybody? I am AJ, and I'm going to break down the new matchup that we have on our hands for UFC Vegas 20. It is Alex Oliveira taking on UFC newcomer Ramazan Kuramagomedov. This fight was put together relatively recently, and we also had a bout canceled in the meantime since we last spoke on this very platform. That fight that was scrapped was William Knight and Alonzo Menafield. To my understanding, there was a positive COVID test on the Menafield side, and the bout has since been postponed. So it is what it is. Again, it was one of those fights I was looking to target for DFS. I actually had to adjust my RotoWire column to kind of update that, as that was one of the fights that I had mentioned in that article. But it is what it is. Willing to make adjustments on the fly. But as pertains to this matchup, we're talking about this here, and I did do some research on it, enough that is to form a conclusion, and that's why I'm getting on here and talking on this very podcast of what my opinion is, who I think wins it, and why they win. So obviously this newcomer here, Ramazan, he's a very talented prospect, very young. We're looking at Tapology right here. He's only 24 years old. I believe he was 22 when he was on the Contender Series 2 years ago. So I'm kind of guesstimating as, actually Tapology doesn't have his age on there, but he's a very talented fighter. Kind of reminds me of Ankalaev as a striker, very technical. He could switch stances on you. He counters very well. He has good variety, solid reads and striking exchanges. Very, very good striker is Ramazan, and I think we could expect him to get better as his career progresses. I do think he is a better technical fighter than Alex Oliveira. Alex Oliveira usually isn't the better technical fighter, but he's able to make up for it with his athleticism and strength. He's able to do that in a lot of matchups. That is what has got him a lot of wins. Taking down Tim Means several times, getting the rear naked choke. That is very, very impressive. But we've also seen several times Alex Oliveira not perform well. Referring to, say, his most as recently as his last fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov, and that was a fight where I was actually on the under 2.5 rounds, but that wasn't the type of finish that happened there. That wasn't really something that I would have expected to happen, but it is what it is. Oliveira, I did a deep tape study on him prior to that fight, and just kind of kept my notes from there. And then watched the Rakhmonov fight again. His defensive grappling has always been a bit of a liability, especially if you get him fatigued. Like Nicholas Dalby had him mounted, Max Griffin had him mounted in their fight. He's very strong when he's in top position, but if you're able to put him on his back, you're able to pass his guard, control him, and maybe even finish him in the case of Gunnar Nelson. And even that last fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov, where he actually pulled guard and got a guillotine choke. But nonetheless, Oliveira's submission grappling defensively has always been a bit of a liability. And Ramazan, he has shown some submission grappling chops. I don't think he's as good of a submission grappler as, say, some of those other fighters that Oliveira struggled with in the past. Certainly not on the level of Gunnar Nelson or Gilbert Burns. I still do think that Ramazan, despite my eyes telling me he's a better technical fighter, I still think he is a little green. And it makes sense. He's only 8-0, and that is, I'd say, a positive thing. Because he's already looked to be really talented, and that could mean that he gets better as his career progresses. He trains at Extreme Couture. He's trained with Timur Valiev. There was one of his previous fights, Timur Valiev was in his corner. He's training with really talented fighters. The man's future is very, very bright. And so when there's a draw with this matchup, I think that we could see him have a very bright future in the UFC. I like what I see out of him technically. He's got a strong grappling background. He's got the ability to land double legs in there. He's got the ability to chain wrestle. He's a submission threat. He seems aware on the ground, and he's only going to get better, right? I'm going to side with him as far as the pick goes. It's just really hard for me to trust Oliveira because, like I say, he's not a guy that generally relies on his technical abilities. He relies kind of on his intangibles, his physicality, his power, his speed. Very light on his feet is Oliveira, but he's also very heavy on that lead leg. And I know that Ramazan does like to go to those low kicks, so I think those will be there for him if he's willing to throw them. So yeah, it's basically the way the matchup comes down to me is Ramazan, despite taking the fight on short notice, despite not nearly being as experienced as Oliveira, he's still my pick to win. I generally pick the fighter that I think is more likely to win the aggregate of exchanges, the fighter that I think is more technical, and I do think that is Ramazan here. Again, Oliveira's got power. It wouldn't be a huge shock if I saw him win because he's obviously the guy that's more prepared, much more UFC experience. And Ramazan was hurt on his Contender Series appearance by Jordan Williams, who has shown some power in his hands. But, Ramazan was hurt there. So it's certainly a possibility for Oliveira. But, the reason why I mentioned the short notice, the experience, because those reasons are enough for me personally to not place a bet on Ramazan, at least in this matchup. We'll see exactly what transpires here in the future. But this is personally a matchup where I want to sit back, enjoy, gather some intel. It should be a fun fight. Oliveira fights are typically fun. So we'll see exactly what happens here. I do side with the newcomer here, Ramazan Kuramagomedov. And we'll see exactly what happens. Another one quick point is I do think he'll have some physicality on Oliveira, which is definitely a thing to have in his back pocket. As Oliveira is, a lot of times a stronger fighter in there. So I do think that is a big, noteworthy advantage that Ramazan has in his favor. And all right, that'll do it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, my pick for this matchup is Ramazan Kuramagomedov. Not going to bet it or anything, just going to sit back and enjoy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys like this content, feel free to hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, the like button, and please leave a comment if you so choose. Again, if you guys want to know my bets for the event, they're in the description below, social media in the description below, and the banner below that is going across your screen. That's all there for you. I want to wish you the best of luck on the event, and take care.